All right, back on the Chad Hasty Show. News Talk 790 KFYO. Yesterday, Councilman Victor Hernandez took to Facebook, posting an open letter, I guess, to State Senator Charles Perry regarding Senate Bill 185, also known as sanctuary cities, and accused State Senator Charles Perry of being a racist, a bigot, said that this is an extremist viewpoint, that Texas is ground zero, Lubbock, Texas is ground zero for hatred and intolerance, that SB 185 is an act of terrorism against the Hispanic community, and the practical effect of SB 185 would be the waging of war on fellow Texans of Latin American descent based on their complexion, surname, accent, hair color, eye color, etc. Victor Hernandez also writing that SB 185 is nothing more than a pretense for outright racism and bigotry. Joining me right now to respond to that and to tell us what is actually in SB 185, Texas State Senator Charles Perry. Good morning, sir. How are you?
Good morning. How are you?
Well, I didn't have a blog post or a Facebook post written about me, so I'm guessing that when you saw that, you weren't too thrilled with it. Tell us, number one, just when you saw that, just your immediate reaction.
Well, I'm gonna do a couple of things here real quick. Number one, it doesn't justify a response because it's just so absurd and outlandish and untrue. And just by that. Well, it's distasteful, too. But that said, if you read the bill, which obviously the councilman hasn't read the bill, he would understand, as over 10 hours of testimony established, this is about rule of law. And I'll talk about the merits of the bill versus some poorly. Anyway, there's just no reason to go down the road of what his perspective is because it's just not true. 185 is an animal that's been around for a little while. This has come up through multiple sessions in the past. It has been improved substantially. There were some legitimate exemptions for schools and victims and witnesses and things that we've incorporated. So it's really, in my mind, a more fair way to ensure that laws will be applied equitably and transparently across the place. But big picture here is, we spend $811 million on border security to close or tighten up the border. And anytime you have cities interior to the border saying, come one, come all, we won't ask and we'll cover, if you will, and not enforce state or federal immigration, that's just an undermining that we can't have. So it's a rule of law. Cities can't pick and choose which ones that they enforce. It leads to civil chaos and anarchy, and it doesn't go, the irony in this discussion doesn't go unnoticed to me that we have hundreds of thousands of people fleeing from South and other areas of the world into our state for sovereignty or safety or opportunity or refuge, and we welcome those through the legal process. And there have been millions over the years that have done it through the legal process. So, number one, SB 85, I heard a lot about the face of 185 through Texas. The face is those law-abiding citizens that have chose to come here and do it the legal way. That's number one. The other face that didn't want to get credit, we had multiple testimonies from people that had lost loved ones to the hands of those individuals that had been housed in a sanctuary city environment that possibly in one case was deported 4 times prior to doing it, but literally took their son out to a field, doused him with gas, and burned him to a crisp. That individual, alive, by the way, that individual had been deported previously, but had sanctuary city cover the last time they was caught. So there's other faces out there not right here, but it's rule of law. We have people fleeing into this state for purposes of refuge and opportunity from an area where lawlessness is the rule today. So it's the irony is they're moving from a country that has lost its laws and ability to have civil discourse in a legitimate way. And then the first thing to get over here is you have cities encouraging the same process. That puts us on a path of not having rule of law apply. So that's what 185 does. It says you just can't, as a city or a municipality or a governmental entity, put laws or ordinances or policies in place that undermine state or federal immigration law. We're not changing the state or federal immigration laws. We're just saying you can't put things in place that would undermine enforcing those. That's all it does. And anybody that's in a position of those governmental entities to argue that the rule of law shouldn't be applied, that's a dangerous road we lead.
Visiting with State Senator Charles Perry, what happens if, let's say, let's pick a town, let's say Lubbock, comes out and says, you know what, don't inquire about immigration status. If you're here illegally, we don't care anymore. What would happen if the city of Lubbock were to say that under this bill?
Under the bill, then they would fear there would be the removal of state funding. So if City of Lubbock had contracts with the state of Texas, then as a result of putting in a policy or an ordinance that doesn't allow an officer to do their duty, then they would have that state funding pulled. You got to have some remedy or consequence, if you will, for violation of the law. And, that was the other thing that came out through testimony, and one that very much concerns me. And I think what I heard was a distrust throughout the whole testimony of those that make the laws, those that implement the laws, and those that are out there enforcing the laws on a daily basis. I have all the confidence in the world of our guys in badge and uniforms that go out and protect society. And there are going to be those few bad actors, and they should be punished to the extent of the law. But anytime we get in a mindset of we can't go there because we don't trust the people in the process, then we get in a really bigger problem than what we've got right now. So the process doesn't allow for that, and we should never encourage the issues that were raised or the fears that were raised. And we cannot run from enforcing laws out of fear.
Well, and let me ask you. I'm gonna go down kind of a list,
sure.
and you've heard these arguments before. These are the arguments that those on the left have brought up, and even Councilman Hernandez alluded to it in his rant. Number one, does this bill allow a police officer to pull someone over just because they may look Hispanic?
Absolutely not. And it's written very specific. You've got to be in the commission of a crime. So the question is, if I'm stopped for a speeding ticket, for reckless driving, that would be considered a criminal offense at that point. Yes, you can be stopped. At that point, he would have the discretion whether to use it or not. And that's what's interesting in this debate. Officers can already do what the bill says they should not be prohibited from doing. We're not adding any barrier or any metric that's lower standard. We're just saying in the course of duty, if an officer stops someone and he has reasonable suspicion that there possibly is another problem, he has the right to ask. That's already available today. So, no, if you can't profile, there's already laws against that. We even reaffirm in the bill, very specifically, although we weren't required to or needed to, it's already known you can't discriminate based on the issues that were raised in Victor Hernandez's letter.
So in the big picture, and you've heard this one also, it'll keep those who witness crimes in the shadows. If someone goes up to a police officer or they go into a police department, maybe they are here illegally, and they say, I witnessed a crime, they're not going to be asked about their immigration status.
The bill specifically, by reference, exempts witnesses of crimes and victims of crimes, meaning if I'm in a domestic violence, I served with Women's Protection Service for years, and there are those people in a situation that they are literally getting the beat out of them every day, just very much abusive relationship. If they're illegal, they would not be asked to verify their illegal status to get out of that relationship. So victims of crimes and witnesses to crimes are specifically exempted, along with our school kids. We don't want kids coming to school for fear that their parents are illegal or that they may not be documented and operate under that cloud. So we even did the pre-K, if you will, through 12th grade, just
right.
So that we don't want kids not coming to school for fear that they may be found out, if you will.
Visiting with State Senator Charles Perry. Let me go to one more facet of this, and then I know you're busy today, and I'll let you go after this. There, and I can't remember which town it was, but it was in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. There was a housing development or an apartment complex that they kept on going to court, basically, to allow illegal immigrants to rent there. And the city was saying, no, you can't do this. And there was a big legal battle about this. If there's an apartment complex out there, are they required to go along with SB 185, or is this only governmental entities that have to go along with SB 185?
Governmental entities. If I'm a private sector business and I choose to do that, I think there's other laws that could potentially apply. But on a local level or a governmental entity level, you can't set policy that prohibits you from asking. But it's strictly policy coming out of a governmental entity, and mainly it's directed at our commissioned peace officers not to be able to not do their job. And I'll give you the one example. You got a lady in a car, this cop stops for whatever legitimate reason there is, be it speeding or otherwise, and they start asking questions. Ma'am, do you have driver's registration? No response. Ma'am, do you know the individual sitting in the back here? No response. We have a huge sex trafficking, cartel, drug. I mean, it is out of control, and they're establishing footholds in these sanctuary cities and spreading out into, yes, my District 28 has got those folks moving in. So not to have the ability to ask to find out where there might be a problem is just going down a path of where lawlessness will survive and thrive.
State Senator Charles Perry, I said that was the last question. This is really the last question. What's the status right now of SB 185?
We're truthfully, we're hustling votes. We're one short of having it heard. So I think we'll get there before the end of hopefully sooner than later, but we're one vote out.
Fantastic. Okay.
Right.
I appreciate your time today. I know you're busy. I'll let you go. I appreciate you giving us a shout.
No problem. Thanks, man.
Have a good one. That's State Senator Charles Perry telling us exactly what is in SB 185. It doesn't sound like to me that we're purging the state of Texas of Hispanics or that we are committing an act of terrorism, but that is what Councilman Victor Hernandez thinks.